Why are you still in bed, Claire? Do something useful for once. Jared's voice cut through the morning quiet like a hammer striking metal. I groaned and turned over. I'm on doctor's orders to rest, Jared. I just made breakfast for us. Again with the excuses, he snapped. Pancakes again? I wanted omelets today. Where's your respect for my preferences? You never mentioned wanting omelets. It doesn't matter. I'm going to the diner. Eat your pathetic pancakes alone. I heard the door slam behind him as he stormed out. I sat up, rubbing my temples. My back ached, and my belly felt heavy with the weight of our unborn child. His words lingered, sharp and biting. Breakfast had always been simple. It was one of the few things I still enjoyed before the day's chaos began. It wasn't always like this. When I first told Jared about the pregnancy, he was over the moon, buying baby clothes and painting the nursery. But somewhere along the line, his excitement wilted, replaced by disdain and indifference. I pushed myself up from the bed and shuffled to the kitchen, looking at the plate of pancakes cooling on the counter. Picking up a fork, I half-heartedly nibbled on one, the taste bland and empty. My phone buzzed next to the plate, and I saw a new message from Megan, Jared's sister. "How are you holding up?" she had written. I hesitated before typing back. "Managing. Jared's being difficult again." Her reply was swift. "I'm coming over later. We need to talk." A sense of relief washed over me. Though Jared might be behaving like a different person, Megan had always been supportive. I carried my breakfast to the living room and plopped down on the couch. Reaching for the remote, I turned on the TV for company, something to drown out the silence of the empty house. An infomercial droned on about weight loss supplements, but my mind drifted, recollecting the last few months. Jared's erratic behavior, his late nights without explanation, and how he'd become a stranger sharing my home. When had things gotten so bad? 2 hours passed, and there was a knock at the door. Megan stepped in, her eyes scanning the room with concern. "Hey," she said, sitting down beside me. "What's going on?" I sighed, feeling the weight of my situation pressing down on me. He's getting more intolerable every day. Everything I do is wrong. I can't keep up with his demands. Megan's jaw tightened. "I'm worried about you. You don't deserve this. Have you thought about what you're going to do?" I placed my hand on my belly, feeling a slight flutter from the baby. I have to think about her now. I can't take much more of this. Megan nodded, her expression serious. "You know I'll help you in any way I can, right?" "Thank you, Megan. I don't know what I'd do without you." Just then, the front door swung open and Jared walked in, looking annoyed to see Megan there. "So, what's this little meeting about?" he scoffed. "Nothing you'd care about, Jared," Megan shot back. Jared glared at her, then turned to me. "And you? Are you going to sit around all day, or will you finally do something useful?" I felt a surge of determination I hadn't felt in a long time. "I'm already doing something useful by taking care of our child and myself. If you can't respect that, then maybe you should reconsider your priorities." His eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Instead, he grabbed his keys and walked out again, leaving behind a tense silence. Megan placed a hand on my shoulder. "You're stronger than you think, Claire. Just remember that." I nodded, feeling a little bit of that strength seeping in. This was just the beginning, but I knew I had to start standing up for myself and my baby. The breaking point was here, and with it, a chance to take back my life. "You're not coming in with me?" I asked, glancing at Jared as we parked at the doctor's office. He shook his head, barely looking up from his phone. "I've got calls to make. You'll be fine on your own." I sighed and stepped out of the car, my hand instinctively resting on my growing belly. Inside the clinic, the nurse greeted me warmly and led me to the examination room. Minutes later, Dr. Patel entered, her smile reassuring. "How are we feeling today, Claire?" she asked, checking my chart. I forced a smile. "A bit tired, but otherwise okay." "We'll do an ultrasound today, see how the little one is doing," she said, prepping the equipment. As the image of our baby appeared on the screen, I felt a rush of emotions, excitement, worry, and a flicker of hope that maybe seeing this would reignite some semblance of care in Jared. "It's a girl," Dr. Patel announced, beaming. "Congratulations, Claire." A girl. My heart swelled with love and fear for my daughter's future. Would Jared be happy? I thanked Dr. Patel and collected the photos of the ultrasound. On the drive back, I couldn't wait to share the news with Jared. Maybe this would change things. Jared, guess what? I said, sliding into the car and waving the photos. We're having a girl. His expression didn't change. He glanced at the photos and then back at the road. A girl? Great. My heart sank. You don't seem excited. Jared shrugged. I was hoping for a son, to carry on the family name, teach him things. I stared at him, stunned by his apathy. Does it matter? She's our child. Whatever, he muttered. Can we just get home? The drive was silent, each mile deepening the rift between us. Back at the house, I carefully placed the ultrasound photos on the fridge, but Jared didn't even glance at them. Later that evening, I set the table for dinner, trying to push aside the nagging feeling of disappointment. Jared was glued to his laptop, barely acknowledging my presence. Come eat, Jared, I called out, trying to keep my tone light. He grunted, not moving an inch. I'm busy. The meal remained untouched, and I ate alone, the chair opposite me glaringly empty. Just as I was about to clear the dishes, Jared finally spoke. You need to understand, Claire, he said, not looking up. This baby thing isn't what I signed up for. Not like this. Not like this, I echoed, anger and hurt bubbling up. What do you mean, Jared? I wanted a son. Someone who could, never mind. He shut his laptop with a snap and stood up. I'm going out, don't wait up. The door slammed shut, and I was left in the emptiness of the house, feeling more alone than ever. I touched the ultrasound photo on the fridge, tracing the tiny outline of our daughter. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the house silent except for the occasional car passing by. I realized that Jared was slipping further away with each passing day. His disappointment in having a daughter was just another crack in our already fractured relationship. I couldn't let this continue. For my own sake, and for my daughter's future, I would have to find a way to protect her, even if it meant confronting the harsh realities of our marriage. Determination replaced the despair as I resolved to find a way forward, no matter what it took. I was setting up for a family barbecue when Jared walked in, looking disheveled. I glanced up from the skewers I was preparing. You're home early. Yeah, about that. He scratched his head, avoiding my eyes. I quit my job. My heart skipped a beat. The irony was sharp. Here we were celebrating family, while ours was crumbling. You what? I couldn't take it anymore, he said, shrugging. I'll find something better. Pretending everything's fine won't put food on the table, Jared. What about our expenses? The baby? I said I'll find something better, Claire. Just get off my back, he snapped. Megan and her boyfriend arrived moments later, filling the room with forced cheer. I put on my best smile and directed everyone outside. As we settled into the backyard, I couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. Megan's boyfriend, Dave, handed me a glass of lemonade. You okay? You seem a bit off. I'm fine, I lied, my eyes darting to Jared, who was already nursing his third beer in silence. Megan caught my glance and pulled me aside. What's going on? He quit his job. Her eyes widened. Without discussing it, what's his plan? He doesn't have one, I whispered, trying to control my frustration. I'm stuck. Listen, she said, her voice soft but firm. You and the baby come first. You can't let him drag you down. I nodded, her words echoing in my mind. While back at the table, Jared was ranting to Dave about former colleagues, oblivious to the tension between Megan and me. Those idiots didn't appreciate my talents, he slurred. I'll show them. They'll regret it. Dave glanced at me, unsure of how to respond. Yeah, I'm sure things will work out. After the guests left, Jared stumbled into the house. I cleaned up the mess, the day's events swirling in my mind. Would this new version of Jared ever go back to who he was? As I loaded the last dish into the dishwasher, the front door opened and Jared lurched in. I'm tired, he muttered, heading to the bedroom. I finished cleaning up and followed, the silence between us thicker than ever. He was already snoring when I crawled into bed, my mind racing with worry about our future. The next few weeks were a blur of Jared's increasing absences and my solo trips to the grocery store, juggling our shrinking finances. One evening, he came back home later than usual, disheveled and visibly agitated. Where have you been, Jared? I asked, trying to stay calm. Out, he said, brushing past me. You can't just leave without saying anything. We need to talk. Talk? There's nothing to talk about. I stared at him, feeling a mix of anger and sorrow. We're having a baby soon? Did you forget? He scoffed. You worry about that. I'm tired of this conversation. His words cut deep. As he stomped off to the bedroom, I sat in the living room, the baby kicking inside me. I realized I couldn't rely on him anymore. I would have to be the strong one for our child's sake, even if it meant facing this journey alone. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen counter in Jared's sloppy handwriting. "Gone to clear my head. Don't wait up." I crumpled the paper, feeling an anger I'd never known before. His irresponsibility was no longer just frustrating, it was endangering our future. I picked up the phone and called Megan. "I need help. Jared's gone again." She sighed on the other end. "I'm coming over. We need to make a plan." I hung up, determination solidifying in my chest. This had to end. For my baby. For me. The once sparkling promise of our future together had dimmed to a cold, harsh reality. I wasn't going to let him destroy what I had left. I sat on Megan's couch, cradling a cup of tea. She looked at me with concern. "You're not alone in this, Claire. We'll figure it out." "Thanks, Megan. I don't know how much more I can take." Megan's eyes softened. "I've been meaning to tell you something. Jared has always struggled with responsibility. Even growing up, he was always in trouble, always the one making excuses." "And I thought it was just a phase," I replied, feeling the weight of her words. "But this is different. We're about to have a baby. He quit his job without even talking to me." Megan sighed. "It's worse than you know. He's been gambling, Claire. He lost a lot of money last week." My heart sank. Gambling? Why didn't he tell me? He's too proud to admit he's failing, and he's been hiding things from you, things you deserve to know. I put down my cup, feeling a surge of anger. I'm tired of his lies. I need to start preparing for the baby and stop focusing on him. Megan nodded. "You're right. We need to find a way to secure your future. Have you thought about opening a separate bank account?" I thought about it for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, I'll do that, and I need to talk to a lawyer." "We can find someone good," Megan assured me. "Meanwhile, you should stay with us. It's safer." I hesitated, then agreed. Okay, just for a while. The next day, I visited a lawyer, Sarah Johnson, who came highly recommended by Megan. Sitting in her office, I recounted the events of the past few months. Sarah listened intently. "You have options, Claire. First, we can protect your assets. Second, we need to document everything. Keep a record of his absences, his erratic behavior, everything. Can we get full custody?" I asked, my voice trembling. "We can fight for it," Sarah assured me. "But you must be prepared. Jared will likely contest it." "I'm ready," I said, feeling a newfound resolve. After leaving Sarah's office, I headed back to Megan's apartment. Jared's car was parked outside. Unexpected. My pulse quickened as I reached door. Inside, Jared was pacing, Megan standing nearby, looking tense. "What's going on?" I asked, stepping in. Jared whirled around, his face a mixture of anger and desperation. "Where the hell have you been, Claire?" "I met with a lawyer," I said, standing my ground. "A lawyer?" he scoffed, eyes narrowing. "What are you planning, Claire?" "I'm planning to protect our daughter," I replied, my voice steady. "And myself." "You're not taking her away from me," he growled, stepping forward. Megan stepped between us. "Back off, Jared. This is on you." He laughed bitterly. "Of course you'd side with her. You never supported me." "Because you never gave me a reason to," Megan shot back. "Claire's doing what's best for her and the baby. Maybe you should start thinking about that." Jared's face turned crimson, but he didn't say another word. Instead, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I turned to Megan, my heart pounding. "Thank you." "You did great," she said, pulling me into a hug. "We'll get through this." Jared's outburst only solidified my resolve. I wasn't backing down. For my daughter and for myself, I was ready to fight. No more letting Jared's actions dictate our lives. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but I felt stronger knowing I had Megan and Sarah by my side. The storm was far from over, but I was more determined than ever to come out stronger on the other side. I sat in the quiet of Megan's apartment, feeling the growing emptiness of our old home. My phone buzzed, an incoming call from Megan. "Claire, I need to talk to you. Can you come over?" "Sure. Is everything okay?" "Just come over. It's important." I hung up, feeling a knot in my stomach. Something was wrong. I rushed to Megan's place, my fears intensifying with every step. When I arrived, Megan's worried expression met me at the door. "Come in, Claire," she said, her voice low. I followed her to the living room, where she handed me her phone, displaying a series of photos. Jared and a young woman, their intimacy unmistakable. My heart plummeted. "Who is she?" I whispered, barely able to get the words out. Her name's Lena, Megan replied, her eyes filled with sympathy. I caught them together. The photos felt like a punch to the gut. I can't believe this, I said, my voice trembling. He's been betraying us all along. Megan put a comforting hand on my arm. You should confront him. You deserve to know the truth. I nodded, wiping away angry tears. I will. Later that evening, Jared burst in through the doorway, reeking of alcohol and smugness. Had a good day? He sneered, his expression indifferent as usual. Who's Lena, Jared? I asked, unable to hold back. He froze, then laughed mockingly. Does it even matter? Our marriage has been over for a long time, Claire. You've been cheating on me while I carry your child? My voice broke, anger mingled with heartbreak. Look, Claire, he said, his tone cold. I want a divorce. Lena and I are moving on. I'll give you some money, but that's it. You and the kid can fend for yourselves. You're a coward, I said, stepping closer, my voice more confident than I felt. If you want a divorce, fine, but I'm not taking any of your scraps. I'm taking you to court. Jared's eyes widened momentarily, then he scoffed. Good luck with that. I'll see to it that you get nothing. He turned and walked out, leaving me to collapse onto the couch, overwhelmed by the reality of his betrayal. But amidst the sorrow, a fierce determination took root. I wasn't going to let him destroy our lives. I picked up my phone and dialed Sarah's number. Sarah, it's Claire. I need to file for divorce. Jared's been cheating, and he's demanding a pittance to start a new life with his affair partner. Get all the evidence you can, Claire, Sarah responded firmly. We'll fight him every step of the way. I hung up, my hand shaking slightly. Megan sat beside me, her presence grounding. You did the right thing, Claire. You will come out of this stronger. The days following were a whirlwind. Collecting evidence, meeting with Sarah, and preparing for the impending battle. Jared's arrogance fueled my resolve. He continued his charade, believing he would walk away unscathed. But I had different plans. Megan and I worked tirelessly, documenting Jared's every move. When the day came to face him in court, I felt ready. Jared was vile, but I had found a strength within me I hadn't known existed. As we stood in the courtroom, I glanced at Megan and Sarah, their supportive nods, a testament to our solidarity. Jared's smug demeanor faltered as the evidence stacked against him. For the first time, he looked genuinely afraid. I tightened my grip on the stack of documents in my hand, feeling the weight of justice on my side. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life and ensuring a future for my daughter. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready to fight for everything we deserved. Sarah's office was bustling with activity when I arrived. She greeted me with a firm handshake and a reassuring smile. Claire, we're ready to go over the strategy. Are you prepared? Yes, I replied, my eyes meeting hers. Let's do this. We sat down at the conference table, papers spread out in front of us. Sarah laid out the plan meticulously, documenting Jared's neglect, his affair, and his financial irresponsibility. We have a strong case, she said confidently. Our goal is full custody and a substantial alimony. Jared won't know what hit him. I nodded, feeling bolstered by her confidence. We reviewed the evidence once more. Photos of Jared and Lena, his erratic financial records, and affidavits from Megan and others who had witnessed his behavior. This wasn't just a fight. It was a battle for justice. The day of the hearing arrived. The courthouse loomed large as I walked in, feeling the weight of what was to come. Jared was already there, looking more polished than usual, but his eyes held a nervous edge. We filed into the courtroom, the judge presiding with an air of stern authority. Jared's lawyer began, trying to paint a picture of a struggling man who deserved leniency. Your Honor, Sarah's voice cut through the room, the evidence is clear. Jared Harper has been negligent, unfaithful, and financially irresponsible. We are requesting full custody of Claire's daughter and appropriate alimony to support her as she prepares for her new life. Jared's lawyer scoffed. Mr. Harper is a dedicated father. He deserves joint custody and is willing to provide some alimony. Sarah stood firm. Dedicated? Really? Let's go over the facts. Jared has been absent for a significant part of the pregnancy, spending time and money on extramarital affairs. He quit his job with no notice and has not contributed adequately to household expenses. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Jared shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Harper, would you like to speak? I stood, hands trembling but voice steady. Your Honor, I've worked hard to keep our family together, but I can't do it alone anymore. My husband has shown time and again that he isn't committed to this family. I want to provide a stable, loving home for my daughter. Jared shot me a glare. Lies! She's turning everyone against me. The judge silenced him with a look. Mr. Harper, you'll have your turn. We presented our evidence. Jared's cell phone records, bank statements, and photos of him with Lena. Megan's testimony was heartfelt, painting a picture of a man who had lost his way and a sister-in-law who was trying to pick up the pieces. Jared's lawyer tried to counter, but the evidence was overwhelming. The judge's expression grew stern as the facts piled up. After hours of testimonies and cross-examinations, the judge took a brief recess. When she returned, her decision was swift and clear. Mrs. Harper, you are granted full custody of your daughter. Mr. Harper, you will provide adequate alimony and child support. Jared's face went white. This isn't fair, he shouted, but no one paid him any mind. The judge's gavel slammed down. Court is adjourned. As we left the courtroom, Sarah put a hand on my shoulder. You did it, Claire? Justice is on your side. I glanced back at Jared, his face twisted with anger and fear. He had thought he could get away with everything, but now he faced the consequences of his actions. Megan hugged me tightly. I'm so proud of you. You stood up for yourself and for your daughter. Tears welled up in my eyes, but they were tears of relief. Thank you, Megan. I couldn't have done it without you. We walked out of the courthouse, the sun shining brightly. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while I felt hopeful. My daughter and I would start anew, leaving the past behind. Jared's downfall was just beginning, but my journey to rebuilding my life had already begun. Jared's face was plastered all over the papers. Local man exposed, infidelity and financial failure lead to downfall. My phone buzzed non-stop with notifications and messages, some from mutual friends, others from strangers who had picked up on our story. Megan sat beside me, shaking her head. He brought this on himself. A knock on the door interrupted our conversation. It was Sarah. Just came from the judge's chambers. Jared's demands for reduced alimony have been denied. He's in deep debt, Claire. I never wished for this, but he has to face the consequences. Sarah nodded. And his legal troubles are only beginning. His part-time jobs found out about the court ruling and fired him. He's practically blacklisted. Employers don't take kindly to public shaming. Just then, my phone rang. Jared's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, but Sarah encouraged me to answer. What do you want, Jared? His voice was laced with desperation. Claire, please. The media is killing me. I've lost everything. Can't we talk this through? I could almost hear the pleading in his voice. You made your choices. This is your consequence. Please, Claire, I can't find work. Lena left me. I need help. Megan and I will discuss this with Sarah, I said, looking at Sarah for confirmation. But I can't promise anything. You need to understand the gravity of what you've done. I understand. Thank you, he croaked before the line went dead. Megan gave me a skeptical look. Are you sure about this? He's at rock bottom. Maybe now he'll learn. Later that evening, Megan and I met with Sarah at her apartment. We reviewed Jared's desperate request. Let's keep a record of this conversation, Sarah said, setting her phone to record. Then she dialed Jared. Jared, it's Sarah. We're willing to listen, but you need to be honest. Jared's voice trembled through the speaker. I am. I'm trying to turn things around. Turnaround starts with responsibility, Sarah said sternly. Admit to your errors, find solutions, and we might consider adjusting the stipulations. I'll do whatever it takes, Jared replied hastily. Then get clean, Megan added. No more gambling, no more lies. Show us you can be reliable. I will, I promise, he said, sounding like a man clutching his last hope. The next few weeks were revealing. Jared struggled to find even odd jobs. Megan and I occasionally spotted him around town, looking disheveled and downtrodden. His proclamations of reform were met with skepticism by those who knew his past. One evening, as I prepared dinner, my phone buzzed with a new message. Jared's text read, I've enrolled in a gambling support group. First session today. I showed Megan the message. Think he means it? We'll see. Actions speak louder than words. Jared's actions began to show promise. He attended support group meetings regularly and even picked up volunteer work at a community center. Sarah kept track, cautiously optimistic. He's making an effort, she said during one of our meetups, but it's a long road. A month later, Jared requested a face-to-face meeting. With Sarah's guidance, we agreed, but kept it public at a nearby cafe. As he walked in, I barely recognized him. He looked more composed, yet there was still a shadow of his old self. "Thank you for meeting me," he said, sitting down. "I know I don't deserve it." "What do you want, Jared?" Sarah asked, keeping the conversation on track. "I need to apologize. I was wrong. About everything. I want you to see I'm trying to change for the better, especially for our daughter," he said, his eyes earnest for once. I nodded. "Prove it, Jared. Words aren't enough." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn sobriety chip. 1 month clean. Small steps, but I'm committed. Megan gave me a reassuring nod. "We'll keep an eye on you. Don't slip." The meeting ended with a sense of cautious hope. Jared had a long way to regain trust, but the first steps had been taken. For me and my daughter, a new chapter waited, filled with healing and cautious optimism. I sat at Megan's dining table, sorting through the stack of documents Sarah had prepared. The custody papers were finalized, and I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Mommy, my little girl Hannah, toddled over, tugging at my shirt. Her innocent eyes were a beacon of hope in the midst of our turbulent life. I scooped her up, planting a kiss on her forehead. "Hey, sweetie, Mommy's almost done. Go play with Aunt Megan for a while." Megan led Hannah to the living room, setting her down with a pile of toys. "She's growing up so fast." "She is," I said, feeling the bittersweet nature of our situation. Just then my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "I've got the restraining order paperwork ready. We need your signature." I placed the phone down and sighed. As much as Jared's recent efforts to change were promising, I couldn't take any chances with Hannah's safety. A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. I opened it to find Sarah standing there, her expression serious. "Claire, we need to talk. Jared's been making some disturbing comments in his support group." I frowned, letting her in. "What kind of comments?" Sarah glanced around, ensuring Hannah was out of earshot. "He said if he couldn't have custody, he'd take drastic measures. We need to act fast." Fear rippled through me. "Do you think he'd try to take her?" "We can't rule it out. We need to ensure you and Hannah are safe." As we discussed the plan, another knock sounded. I opened the door cautiously to see Jared standing there, looking agitated. "I need to see Hannah," he demanded. "You can't just show up unannounced, Jared," I said, blocking his view of the inside. "I'm her father," he growled. "I have rights." "Not without proper arrangements," Sarah said, stepping forward. "Leave now, or I'll call the police." Jared's eyes flashed with anger, but he turned and walked away, muttering under his breath. "Stay alert, Claire," Sarah warned. "He's unpredictable." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every noise made me jump. Around midnight, the sound of a window creaking open set my heart racing. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. A figure appeared in the hallway. "Jared, I just want to see her," he whispered harshly. "Get out now, Jared," I yelled, clutching Hannah close to me. Within minutes, the police arrived. Officer Mark Anderson, the responding officer, assessed the situation quickly. "Mr. Harper, you're under arrest for violating the restraining order." Jared struggled as they cuffed him, shouting, "I just wanted to see my daughter." As they led him away, Hannah stirred in my arms, her innocent eyes opening briefly. The sight of the police lights outside startled her, and she began to cry softly. Megan rushed in, wrapping us both in her arms. "It's over, Claire. He can't hurt you anymore." The next morning, Sarah came by with the final documentation for the restraining order. "This ensures he can't come near you or Hannah. If he tries anything again, there will be severe consequences." I signed the papers with a shaking hand, but a sense of finality and relief washed over me. Megan set down a plate of breakfast in front of me. "Here's to new beginnings. You and Hannah deserve peace." I smiled, looking at my daughter now playing with her toys, unaware of the chaos that had just unfolded. "Thank you, Megan, for everything." "Always," she said, squeezing my shoulder. That evening, Megan and I sat together, reflecting on the past few months. "It's been a tough journey," she said, "but look how far you've come. I couldn't have done it alone, and now it's a fresh start for us." Looking at Hannah, peacefully sleeping, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Jared's toxicity was no longer a shadow over our lives. With the legal battles behind us, it was time to rebuild and move forward, fostering a life of love and safety for my daughter. Finally, we were free to create our future.